Alright, let's try this again. Arrows and bolts are subjective to the buyer, and that's the most difficult part of pricing items. I understand these are items where price checks might be legitimate because of this, but as always, let's start with an analogy. If you ever watch these roadshow flea market shows, someone always comes with a super rare item they believe is worth millions when it's worth 10,000 max to the right buyer. There's always the same argument though. My item is worth more because something super cool happened to it. I know this Fabergé egg is worth so much more than the others because this Fabergé egg was used as a butt plug by Marie Antoinette herself. Okay, great, man. If you find one Marie Antoinette aficionado with a scat fetish, then yes, your Fabergé egg is worth a lot more than all the others. Good luck finding that guy, though, because he's at the local adult bookstore getting railed by Madame Tenage. He's also poor because his weird fetish required surgery to loosen his knock hole. That one kind of got away from me, but too long didn't read is rare items require rare buyers, and that lowers the value. Hell, I just switched everything back to my everything's on build and had to start looking for IAS bolts, which I never needed before. Luckily, I'm a bolt arrow whore, and I have 50 sets just sitting around waiting to be corrupted, and I did that, and I got the bolts I needed. And for those of you watching the video, I mean, look, seriously, I have just bolts for days for when I need to switch something. And these are the main sets that I use, and we'll go over those. But since everyone gets upset when I try to objectively price things, because everything is subjective, I'll be fully subjective then and say what I look for and why I look for it. Moreover, the reasons below are why I maxed out at a goal rune per set of arrows or bolts in my trade. So, for example, here's what I'm using currently. The first thing I look for is Deadly Strike, or Crushing Blow if you like that. Deadly Strike is just the best damage modifier, period. I mean, I've tested Crushing Blow and some people like it, but it just doesn't hit the same. Moreover, you really only need a little Crushing Blow based on how fast most Amazons fire, and Blade Sins too for that matter. I thought I was going to blow some minds running a Wind Force with all burrs for max Crushing Blow, and it just kind of sucked and pluggy. So if it does not have 20 plus Deadly Strike, or your arrows, on your arrows, they max out at like an ist worth of value to me, and that's it. And the other modifiers must be spectacular. For example, I have these. These are nice because they do have ED, they got a little bit of Crushing Blow, and they have passive, but they're not great. I have those just kind of around. You see, most of mine have some form of Deadly Strike on them, because it's just the best thing to have, right? Beyond that, skills. First off, bow skills for a Summons On are not bad. If Strafe is your main damaging ability, then 2 to bow skills is actually worth 30 enhanced damage for Strafe. People forget this. So someone running pure Strafes on would jizz buckets over +2 bow skills, ED, Deadly Strike, max damage bolts. Now, second, passive and magic skills are key for most Summons-Ons, obviously, but again, you can get to level 40, about level 40 Volks, without having those skills on. Example, I have 38 right now, and well, no, hang on. Yeah, 38. I can get to 38 without skill rings, right? And without a Rakon. So it's great to have, but the only reason I'm ranking them second is because it's so much more common to find. I mean, the plus skills are easier to find than insane all damage modifiers, so it's the first thing I type into search. Third is those nasty damage modifiers. This can be enhanced damage, maximum damage, or minimum damage. Elemental damage is just not worth it. I really thought there was like a set of 300 fire, 500 lightning damage bolts out there, and A, I never really found them, and B, when I got close to that, they didn't really perform well enough for me to keep searching for them. Doubling up is great on obviously like an ED max damage combo, but it's just not the same as having 30% Deadly Strike. Enhanced damage really needs to be over 42 to get worth in terms of pricing. Increased attack speed. This is only worth it to people running multi-shot. It's only worth it to people running multi-shot, okay? If you are using a demon crossbow of any kind, then you do not need any IAS on your build whatsoever. IAS therefore becomes a worthless stat unless you are running multi-shot as a skill. Even then, I can get IAS corrupts elsewhere, like I did on my soul drainers I bought for a fucking Vex rune. Why would I pay over that for arrows unless they had all great modifiers and then say 30 IAS? On that note, some guy did have 30 IAS, 29 Deadly Strike bolts up, and I believe they still are up for a Vex. I offered a go, and he politely said no. I said what I said in this guide. Hey, you might find a Vex buyer. If you do, great. If you don't, hit me up. Gull still stands. And moreover, I only need those bolts because I'm making my Merc use a Colossus crossbow Faith because crossbows are objectively cooler, fight me, and I'm probably one of the only idiots on the server doing that. Now, those are great bolts, but I'd be using them on my Merc, and even then there's other ways for me to get my IAS I need. So I was having hesitance giving up a Vex for those bolts, but at a goal, I mean, sure, why not? I could swing that. So what the fuck do Magic Zons use? I don't know. Probably bow skills and IAS. Ask Mace One. What the fuck do Ice Zons use? It's the same shit, just with a negative enemy cold resist corrupt on them. I actually have an example here. There. No. Those are pretty sick, too. Professional YouTuber, guys. I'm very good at this. I probably threw them away because no one was buying them. Yeah, but even then, I had a great set of bolts that actually, or arrows that rolled negative enemy cold res, and no one wanted them. So, you know, buyer beware, seller beware, whatever you want to call it. But that's really all you want for Ice Zons. IAS, skills, and that negative cold resist corrupt. But that only comes from corruptions to my knowledge. So that's why those, you might get a little more value out of those. All res. Zons kind of struggle with all resistances normally, so this is just a little bit of extra awesomeness. However, some builds like mine that use a Mist and then a Dope Annie, well, resistances just becomes a wasted roll at that point. I mean, you can see mine have fire res, and I don't need that. That is an overcount. That's a wasted roll on these bolts here. Damage to demons and undead is next up for me. Again, extra. It's not great, not bad. It's just there. I will say for anyone, though, running my Disciple set Demon Machine combo, that damage to demons is really great for throne maps, though. So keep an eye out for someone undervaluing this roll to your specific build. And last, and this is probably the most controversial thing, Leech is overrated. Either life or mana leech is a wasted stat roll to me. Even with the changes halving the amount of leech for range attacks, and I think I'm partially responsible for that, sorry, you just don't need that much leech to sustain yourself. First, you can roll crafted gloves with dual leech on them. You can, what is it, the IO rune combo? And I got a couple passive magic skills, Deadly Strike, dual leech gloves. They are sick. Yeah, they're somewhere in here. But you see, I was able, no, those are all rares. But yeah, here, I was able to get 2 magic skills, Deadly Strike, mana. Like, those are awesome gloves. I know the Deadly Strike didn't roll great, but you can see I dual leech Crushing Blow, bow skills here with Life Leech and Crushing Blow. If those rolled IAS, they'd be insane. I mean, you can just craft these and go to town. I even got a couple martial arts skillers in here. But leech is kind of overrated. And since I was able to put on soul drainers, and I get leech from the coil now, and you can get it on your rings, it's like, why would I want it on my bolts? I can get it so many other places. It's a wasted roll on the bolts. And also, I mean, 2% life leech, 3% mana leech. I mean, that was enough for me to really be okay. You know, leech may be useful to multi-shot Amazons running insane damage gear where they can't get leech elsewhere, but we run into that Fabergé egg story again. You got to find the exact right buyer. So, you know, what would be my perfect bolts for like this build? I would replace the life and the res with +2 to all, or maybe the res with +2 to passive skills or +2 to bow skills. And I would hope the corrupt would be something like +1 to all skills or more ED or something like that, right? That would be the gold ticket where you might get a full high rune out of me if you have perfect bolts. I'm talking 30% Deadly Strike, over 40 ED, 20 IAS, 2 to skills, and a sick corrupt. And those are just difficult to find. I mean, you can see how many, these are the ones I've kept, guys. I mean, they are difficult to find. But finding mediocre in the middle bolts is incredibly easy. I mean, Jesus, look at those. Max, damage demons, mana leech, and crushing blow. I mean, you can just pick these up anywhere because no one picks them up. Well, look, this is almost like what was posted on the trade site today. I mean, dual leech, I guess they're not, but either way, you get the point. I argue that unless your bolts hit Deadly Strike skills, modifiers, all that, they're just worth a goal. And why just a goal? Because, oh god, these bolts and arrows, they look so cool. Well, it's because everyone's gear changes, and the multitude of modifiers you can roll on bolts and arrows means you finish off your build with them. You don't build around them. And as someone who picks up every set of bolts and arrows in public map games, because people just leave them there, I shit you not, I switch out all of these pairs based on what map I'm running or what I'm doing. Like, those are my Uber's bolts so that I can fight through the res drop from the bosses. And that's just how you do it. So the too long didn't read here. When are my arrows worth more than a gull? Based on my extensive arguments about opportunity costs, never. But you can wait and try to squeeze more out of the rich like anyone does with most items. But I bet if you list those dope arrows or bolts for a gull, you can get a buyer in a few hours. And at Vex within a few days if they're really good. Anything over that and you're just playing the lottery, the offer lottery that everyone else plays, waiting for a rich guy who needs your exact rolls to finish his build. And you can do that, but I mean, what's the point on price checking then? I can't remember what rolls happen on arrows, bolts exactly, but seriously, unless it's 2 to skills, 30 deadly strike, enhanced damage, and they rolled like max corrupt, they are not going to make you rich. Or at least not more so than any other item. And even then, the rich people that have enough to buy them very well may switch builds like I did, and now I needed to hit IES on top of all those things I said, or whatever other roll they're missing. So your arrows are worth a gull room, a Vex max, and anything beyond that is gambling, okay? I assume this guide is comprehensive, and now we need no more price checks on arrows. Right, guys? See you later. And real quick here, look, this is an example of, like, insane bolts. These are my last season. Faster run walk, ED, the max damage rolled a little bit of life leech, high deadly strike, extra strength, and mana after kill, so I don't even need mana leech. Like, that's what we're talking about. And, you know, I was running the insane multi-shot build with this one. So that's what we're looking at when we're saying, hey, awesome bolts. Let me actually check my other Zon from the other season too. What did I end up with on her? Are you kidding me? This is just for the people watching the video. Yeah, even these, well, yeah, ED rolled low. Those are actually aren't. Well, all res, deadly, see what I'm saying? All res, deadly strike. I know I don't need the mana leech. Or I did, I think, on this build, maybe. But again, max damage, ED, like that's what you're looking for, guys. That's the insanity of level you kind of need to get to. You know, or something like this. Passive, damage, the undead is nice, open wounds is eh. Yeah, even these, I mean these, I could sell these for maybe an ist. That's what I would buy them for. I think that's what I could sell them for. Even the open wounds is kind of junk. So, anyway, I've made 2 fucking videos now on bolts. Stop price checking them, please.